Okay, so a little bit of history. So this region wasn't always overlooked. It actually used to be kind of famous, and the wines from there were highly regarded. Winemaking probably started in Roman times. It might have been there before with the Gauls, but it's probably Roman times. They were making wine before Bordeaux was making wine, and this is the thing, because this region is right next to Bordeaux, and so this is like a
So
whole
can I
thing in the
tell 'em?
history. Yeah,
Here's the little estuary,
Sure.
and here's Bordeaux, the city, and this right here is Bordeaux, the region. And then right here, the darker, this is some of the appellations in Southwest France. So like some of those, like literally, it's like directly connected to Bordeaux.
And these are the rivers, because the rivers
Oh, those
are
are rivers.
the rivers are really important as well. Yeah, in the Middle Ages, medieval times, all of this was called the High Country, and those wines were well known, and they were kind of in demand and certainly considered superior to what was coming out of Bordeaux at the time, which was considered a bit like thin and a bit, not very good. And the Bordeaux used to take some stuff from the High Country and put it into their wines to give it a bit of a boost, to kind of kick it up a gear.
Oh, and I do want to say this region, so a lot of you have Bergerac, or some of you do, which is right here. So that's one of the ones that's like directly next to. And then Cahors is kind of way down here. Okay. Just map context.
So at this time, you've got this region here, the High Country, is making the better wines, and there's a lot of demand for these wines, partly or mainly actually because of the British. There is a royal connection to France at this time, or to this region in France, and the English are importing lots and lots of wines, and a lot of it is coming from this High Country, and then most of these wine regions, apart from the ones right down here, they're on rivers that will easily take you to the Gironde estuary and the ports, where they can be shipped up to England. And so it's a big market. In this is my favorite stat, 1307, Edward II of England was having a wedding, and he ordered the equivalent of 1.2 million bottles of wine for his wedding and celebrations. I don't know how many people that was for or for how long, but it's a lot of wine. So there was a lot of stuff coming out of there, and like I said, the rivers were important. So what happened is the guys in Bordeaux, the Bordelais as they're known, got a bit jealous and didn't like all of this attention. Between the 13th and 14th century, they developed this code of basically unfair practice. Someone called it extortion, because they're in charge of the port. So what they do is, yes, there's tariffs and things, but they're kind of worse than that. They actually they say that the wine country wines won't be allowed to come in to Bordeaux until nearly Christmas, just before Christmas. Okay, and so timing here is really important, because during this time, they'd expect a wine to last maybe a year if you were lucky. It will start to turn sour. So the first wines from a vintage were considered the best wines, and those were the ones that people wanted. So in October, the port of Bordeaux, there'd be like fleets of ships, hundreds of ships coming in to take the wine away, and to get the first wines that have been produced in that vintage, which were the best ones. So what the Bordelais did was they said to the High Country people, your wines aren't allowed in until Christmas. So that means between October and Christmas, Bordeaux's basically got the run of the market. They're selling all their wine, all their best wine, and the High Country people just have to be like, okay, just got to wait. And by the time they get their stuff in, it's either like the best markets have already been sold to, maybe some of the ships from the northern places are iced in, they can't get down there anyway to come and pick the wine up. It's basically they're pretty screwed by it. And they even took it further than that, actually. They're pretty mean. So even when the High Country wines came in, they weren't allowed to take them into the normal Bordeaux wine port. They had to go to a special one kind of in the suburbs and put them in their own particular cellars, so they were very separate from the Bordeaux wines. And they weren't allowed to just bring them down the river and put them straight onto a ship. You couldn't do that. You had to unload them first, and they had to be transported in particularly sized barrels that weren't very good for transport anyway, and were kind of weaker, and so they didn't always survive, like the sea crossings and stuff. So basically, these people were like, pretty stuffed by the Bordelais. Yeah, that's a little brief history, the sad history of Southwest France.
Yeah, it is a very sad story.
Do you all feel sad
thoughts?
for Southwest France? Do you hate Bordeaux now?
We do feel sad. Yeah.
Yeah, don't buy